I think I watched Past Lives wrong. I enjoyed it just the same as many other people, although some people have said they didn't like it, which is simply their business, but I enjoyed it. However, when I went to log my little thoughts on Letterboxd, I got the feeling I was out of step with the other girls, and the same felt true when I had a little gander on Reddit. So in this video we're going to unpack the idea of watching a film wrong, how is that possible, and the idea of personal interpretation. Having seen the trailer, I very naturally assumed this was a film about just romance. The longing gazes and the quiet conversations felt like typical hallmarks. And of course I was rooting for the Asian couple. Spoiled romances are all well and good, but I was not rooting for Arthur. He felt like a random hanger-on and I very much wanted him off my screen, at least when I was watching the trailer. But I was very in support of a slow, tender Asian love story on a Western cinema screen. Now of course if you've seen the film you know there's no question of Nora actually leaving Arthur for Hae-sung. It's just not that kind of film. In reality, the film is about love, but not just love, and not just romantic love. Everything in Past Lives is slight. The camera work, the glances, the line delivery. So Nora and Hae-sung, they do have a romance of sorts. They don't give it a name and they don't define it, but it takes place online. They never get this big grand summer roaming New York or Seoul together in their 20s, but there's a tenderness in their video calls that feels meaningful. Interestingly, some audiences don't read their relationship as romantic. They believe that they are just two friends missing each other and nothing more, while other people have said there's no chemistry between them at all. These are indeed opinions. They are not mine, but I hear it. I watched the film and felt that lingering sense of what if that existed between the characters, and that coloured the way I watched their relationship throughout the film. Going back to Nora and Hae-sung specifically, I don't necessarily think they have to be each other's forever person. What matters more are the chances they didn't take. What if she flew to Seoul? What if he came to New York the first time around? And that's why I couldn't just watch the film and think, oh, they're just pals. And that difference in interpretations regarding their relationship is part of why I felt I watched the film wrong. While a lot of people watch Past Lives and thought it's a film about friendship, many others look at Past Lives as a film about letting go, about our former selves and the versions of ourselves that only certain people got to meet and know, and we only got to be in certain spaces. Then of course there's a discussion about fate or inyan. I thought the discussions about inyan were very beautiful, and Nora and Hae-sung discuss it themselves. They talk about how in previous lives maybe they were just a branch and a bird, and maybe she perched on top of him and then flew away, which means their connection is deeper than just romantic love. It's something cosmic and fated. They are tethered together beyond just a heart feeling. Something in the universe conspires to bring them back together, or maybe something in their makeup draws them back to each other on a cellular level. And I heard all of these conversations happening in the film between Nora and Hae-sung, but I think somehow I couldn't let go of that question, what if? And because bigger ideas were being presented by the film, I felt shallow for reading it as a film about just romantic love. And when I went to Letterboxd and read it, that's what came back to me. The sense that other people got something greater from the film than I did. And so I must have watched it wrong. I felt like I hadn't looked at the film deep enough, that my views were shallow and surface level. It made me question whether I know how to look at film and unpack it and study the themes. Oddly, it raised this sense of insecurity that I didn't know was there and I'd never questioned before. Past Lives isn't a complicated film, which I think is what makes this whole issue worse. And I think this is such a random film to have raised this concern. Now I do think I can look at film and interpret it and understand it, but I think sometimes I just watch something and I watch it for what it is. I don't watch it to interpret greater themes, I don't watch it to unpack, I watch it for entertainment, and Past Lives was entertainment for me. I saw two people that I wanted to be in love and thought about that throughout, and I rooted for them even though I knew it would never happen. Yes, there were bigger themes and ideas presented, and I think they were all really great, but I didn't come away from the film wanting to analyse all of that together. Maybe that's wrong with me, maybe that is shallow of me, maybe I was out of step and out of sync with other people for not wanting to do that. But sometimes I just turn my brain off and I say, I'm watching a film to watch a film. And if something grabs my attention in an analytical way, then it will, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Even though my overarching opinions were not groundbreaking, I did have a few ideas that I feel like could be compelling about some of the smaller narrative points. So from my snooping on people's reviews, a lot of people like Arthur. He did handle the situation with Nora with a lot of maturity. I, however, don't love Arthur, I just think he's okay. I do have some gripes with him, and here's why. First of all, I am entirely biased. Arthur to me feels like the kind of white man that is a writer that does very middling fiction, and yet he gets given the literary world. This all hinges on the fact that his book is called what it is, and I know that I'm biased, and I know that I shouldn't allow that to cloud my judgment, but I saw that book title and it made me itch. Sorry. But the scene that really bothered me with Arthur comes later. It's the scene between him and Nora in bed after she's seen Hae-sung. He delivers this line about how she dreams in a language he doesn't understand, and that's why he learns Korean. At first, I interpreted this as romantic, but then he kept talking, and isn't that always the problem? He goes on to mention that there are parts of Nora that he can't access because of this language barrier when she sleeps, and that scares him. And we see him trying to speak Korean earlier in the film, which I, at the time, appreciated because I thought that was him making an effort. But with this newfound information, his attempts to learn Korean feel entirely selfish and based on his insecurities. He isn't learning Korean to know Nora better, but he's doing it to make sure that there are things she can't keep from him. It feels like brute force. She won't share some things, so I'll just use her culture to hack my way into her brain when she sleeps. And we know that Nora doesn't really like it when he speaks Korean, he says so. So I can only imagine what she really feels about him learning Korean to unpack her dreams. She doesn't express concern necessarily in the scene, but I'd be amazed if there aren't any lingering feelings. Arthur also admits that Nora makes his world bigger. So by learning Korean, he's making his world bigger because he's learning a new language and finding a new way to look at the world. And he's getting access into Nora's internal world. So she's making his world bigger still and getting nothing in return. Some people might say I'm reaching to make this negative. Others may say this is obvious, and many people have said this online. Now, I'm not posing my ideas as some sort of grand breakthrough. I just haven't seen them discussed online personally, and I thought I'd throw them out there to see if anyone agrees. So do you agree with my interpretation of this scene? Yes, no? If not, I would love to know your thoughts. Anyway, all of this leads me on to my next contrary opinion, which is that Nora and Arthur's relationship is very meh. When Nora returns from seeing Hae-sung, she sits beside Arthur on the sofa, and the scene is shot in such a way that she's trapped between him and the arm of the sofa, and that feels really telling. She has spent the whole day with Hae-sung out in the city, overlooking bodies of water and standing next to hulking bridges, and she comes home, and this is it. There is a real sense of contrast there, maybe because Hae-sung represents something unexplored, something different, something fanciful, something not rooted in reality, but it still felt very interesting to see the contrast. Also, there's a convenience in the way that Arthur and Nora got married. It was moved up a year because of the green card issue. Now obviously people make practical choice about marriage every day, and I'm not saying that because of that they aren't in love, but it feels like a testament to their relationship, a thing of convenience. Arthur is from New York and Nora wants to stay in New York. They met at a retreat, and I think they were the first people they each met. It's all just very convenient. Arthur himself raises the question about what could have happened if they hadn't met at that retreat. Would this have ever worked? Would this have ever been a relationship? One thing that strikes me as interesting is that Nora doesn't talk about their relationship with the same grandeur that Arthur does, but she accepts that's the function she serves in Arthur's life. She's very sensible in the way she discusses things with him. When she was younger, she spoke about winning Nobel Peace Prizes and Pulitzers, but now, nothing. I wonder why that is. Is it because she's older, more grounded, she does adult things now? Maybe because she's the child of immigrants? Maybe because she's had to make lots of pragmatic choices to be where she is now? Or maybe because she just doesn't feel that big, grand, whatever that Arthur feels. I should point out that I know this is based on the writer and director Celine Song's life, and this is not an indictment of her relationship. I'm just reading the film as I saw it. So a few random asides. I had some other thoughts about the film that kind of don't relate to anything in particular, but I wanted to throw them out there anyway, just in case. So one thing is, I wanted to see more of Nora's play. The little we did see seemed quite interesting, and I would have loved like an additional 10-15 minutes dedicated to Nora just doing her work. I do like Nora, but I think she low-key takes the piss. She stops translating for Arthur minutes into the conversation, she turns her back to him, she tells him that they're talking about him to his face, and then goes back to her conversation without him. She's deeply unserious, but I do still like her. The blocking in the scene when Nora is preparing for bed and Arthur is in the kitchen is chef's kiss. I could write an essay on it. And my last thought, even though I'm aware that I'm biased towards Arthur and his book, I still don't think it would be very good. To close the video, I would love to know your thoughts on past lives, and if your opinions go against the consensus. Let's also remember that if people disagree, that's fine. Celine's song doesn't pay any of our bills, and we do not need to fight in her name. If you would like to find me elsewhere on the internet, links are in the bio. Thank you for watching. If you would like to subscribe, please do. And if you would like to like, you're more than welcome to. See you in the next video. Bye!